Just a little quick background. FCC stands for Families with Children Adopted from China. FCC is a nonprofit organization that strives to connect specifically Chinese adoptees. I'm Wes Crochet with FCC New York's Adoptee Board, and this is another one of our Adoptee Stories videos. Today I have with me the lovely...
Hi, I'm Liqiu Jones. I'm on the Adoption Board also, and this is my story.
I'm not speaking for the entire adoptee or adoption community. This is just my story and my experience of being adopted and being an adoptee. Thank you for watching. This is my lens.
I'm 18 years old and I'm a senior in high school. I was abandoned, they say, around maybe 5 days old. And then I came to the US around 11 months old, or in China they would say 1 year old. And I was adopted by a single mom who is Caucasian or white, whatever you want to say.
What got you interested in participating in these videos?
Actually, I started with Wes. He came up with the idea and I was like, okay, let's go for it because I think it's a great idea. I've been helping him. He just started, so.
Do you have any background in adoption communities? Did you go to events?
When I came to the States, so around 11 months old, all the way to maybe 7 years old, I used to go to GladMe events, which is the adoption agency I'm from. As I got older, I just didn't want to go to the events because they were more for little kids. And I just got back into it through My Treehouse, which is an adoption organization for parents and for the kids. So I worked at a summer camp and it was working with little kids. And so I just started thinking, I was like, I really want to get back into it. So here I am.
As you mentioned before, you were adopted by a white single mother.
Mm-hmm.
What was growing up like, being a different color or race from your mother? What was that like growing up?
My mom was open about adoption. She just told me straight out, you're adopted. This is why you're adopted, because government and all this stuff. She was pretty much open about any questions that I had. And so she tried to answer everything as much as possible. The only thing that she couldn't answer was when people would ask, why? Do you have a different skin color? They would make racist comments about my skin. Since she's never been through anything like that, questioned, why is your skin this way? She couldn't really give me an answer of why people are saying this to me, why this happened. That was kind of hard to grow up with. She didn't know what to say, which is understandable.
So there was a blank space when you're put on the stage of oh, you're so different and being laughed at. It's she couldn't really do anything.
It was kids would tell me, you're the color of poop, or why are you so dark and your mom is so white? And it's well, I'm adopted, but they don't, in general, they don't understand it. So it's not like my mom could tell me in a kid version. My mom was a doctor, so she did have a lot of coworkers that were Chinese and other Asian ethnicities. So I did grow up in somewhat of a mix of cultures because her coworkers were nice enough to help kind of keep my culture background with me as much as possible.
So as you said before, your mother is kind of open with you on talking about adoption, your adoption identity. How have they helped you cultivate your understanding of being an adoptee?
When I was really little, my mom would read this book and it was my favorite book. It's about this little girl who's from China. She's 3 years old. She's also adopted, and it's basically just saying her life now and that her mom is we come from different parts of the world. We come from different bloodlines. You always had a place in my heart. You are my child, not anything different. This little girl is learning more about herself. It's my mom actually cares about me. My mom, she flew all the way over here just for me. It helps a kid learn more about the adoption and that you were meant to be with this family, even though it doesn't always seem like it. Basically, they chose you. You have this special place that's you can't really describe. It's basically just this little girl learning more about what her mom did, all the adventures that her mom had to do to get this little girl to come over here and have this life. Adoption is hard for any kid to understand what it is. So I guess if you read about it in a picture book, you kind of see the difference. You notice maybe the mom might have lighter skin. The mom in the book, she was saying, you don't come from me. You didn't grow in my belly, but you grew in someone else's.
Since you kind of mentioned that your mother tried to have connections to Chinese culture, how do you relate yourself to Chinese culture?
So when I was little, I wanted to embrace it and stuff, but kids at school didn't really accept it and they kind of laughed at me for a really long time, since the age of 5 and all the way until maybe I was 13. I just pretended I'm not Chinese. I don't care what they say. Now I really shouldn't care what people think, and I'm proud to be Chinese. I mean, I identify as Chinese American and consider China a second home, not just some place that I come from.
So, as you said before, your mother is kind of open with you. Could you give me a specific example of how kids reacted when you try to claim, like, or be part of, like, Chinese culture here in America?
Actually, I wrote this for my college essay. So there was one day when I was in pre-K, I was hanging out with two of my friends. They just started asking me, they're like, so why do you look different than your mom? And I was pretty much fine with telling them, oh, I'm adopted from China. And a few other kids heard, and they all started trying to play together, and then I got excluded. And they were like, we don't want to play with you. And my friends were like, why? And they were like, well, she's the color of poop. We're 5, so it made sense. I didn't really know what to say. I just kind of stayed quiet and walked away. And so I went home that night and I grabbed a bar of soap and I was just trying to rub off this poop color, dirt, or whatever it is on my skin that made it brown. And my mom walked in and she was like, what are you doing? And I was like, my skin is dirty because it's brown. My mom, she had no idea what to say. She was kind of like quiet. She felt bad because it's not like you can tell like, oh, it's going to be okay. Or like, I understand. It's like she didn't understand fully and she can't say it's okay, you won't ever go through this again, because she knows that's not reality. So she tried to keep it pretty real and not try and sugarcoat.
How have these experiences when you were younger, and many other experiences, no doubt, affected your sense of self?
So I guess it made me more aware of what people can think. I guess I cared what people thought. Now I started to realize I'm not going to make everyone happy, and a lot of things that I can't control, like the color of my skin and what I'm proud of, I shouldn't care what they think, and I should just be proud of what I want to identify with and just embrace it. And like, if someone tells me it's bad because you grew up in a white community, you're not really Chinese or you're not really Asian, I'm like, well, that's your opinion, that's not my opinion, and this is my life, so, you know, it's my life, not yours.
Should edit this out, please, Lucy.